Hey everyone, this is Ricky with Spoiler Force Podcast, courtesy of Popluck Podcast. You can find more episodes of Spoiler Force Podcast on Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, YouTube, or on Facebook at facebook.com/popluckpodcast. Alright, so this is the 10th episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. So 10 episodes already. Holy shit. I'm surprised I actually got this far with just on my own with 10 episodes of the podcast. It's a big deal for me. You know, the first time I actually reached 10 episodes, and it's double digits, so it's a big deal for me. But what a week I have had since the last episode last weekend with Andrew. Um, yeah, man, it was the way how it started and the way how it's ending now. Damn, I don't know how to feel, man. Like the middle of the week was pretty good, but then like earlier this week it was just a struggle. I was feeling uninspired. I was, you know, I just didn't have like the will to like. I almost felt like, why am I doing this kind of feeling, and anything really like anyone can have these emotions while when they're doing something that they enjoy. Like they kind of just it's self doubt really. I was just like, why am I doing this, man? I'm not even getting paid for this. Why am I even doing this, man? What purpose am I serving really by just talking to myself really and just putting it up online and trying to promote it while no one's listening and stuff like that, and just all this negativity was just getting to me, and it was just getting to me, and it was just making me doubt myself, and it was bad. It was really bad. I was letting this dark energy just get to me, and I believe it was like Monday was pretty bad, and just like I was having so many issues, just sending out messages to people who I'd like to have on my show, and just like I wanted to just have guests, more guests really, and have opportunities to have guests. That way I can network better with my podcast. But then it's tough when you don't know too many people, and damn, it was just like I said, everything was just getting to me, and that was getting to me too, because there was responses where I wasn't getting like an exact no, which I would have wanted that instead of just like going around the bushes kind of answer. And there was also where no one just responded, and I was sending out messages to multiple people, and it was really like, holy shit, man, like is this not gonna work for me? Is this something that I should just stop doing? Because everything that's funded from my podcast is out of my pocket, so it's not like I'm officially being sponsored by anyone, even though I'd like to be. But yeah, it's tough, and it's really tough. So I listened to Ari Spears podcast. It's called the Spears and Steinberg podcast, where Ari Spears and another comedian, Andy Steinberg, they both toured together around the states. And Ari Spears used to be a popular comedian, which he still is, but like he was on the verge of being like mainstream, but then like he had issues with his own personal issues. But he was in films, he was on Mad TV, he had specials, and I didn't follow his career too much, but the first time I ever heard of him was through Mad TV, and I was very young at that time too, and he was one of those comedians that always stood out to me. And I remember I saw his stand up again in Shaq's All Star Comedy Def Jam. It was on Netflix, where like him, Kevin Hart, D Ray Davis, they had they just took turns to go on stage, and Ari Spears, his set kind of stood out because he did the impressions of DMX, Jay Z, LL Cool J, and Snoop Dogg, and that really stood out. So I was like, oh yeah, I remember this dude. I used to watch his stuff on TV and stuff. So anyways, on his podcast, him and Andy Steinberg were talking about the Rocky films and reviewing it, like the '80s movies, and how they grew up in that era of just of film, and just that time itself where you had to go out and really struggle physically, and just if you wanted something, you needed passion and whatnot. So they were talking about that, and they were reviewing the film, and I sent them an email after hearing it, and I was just inspired by what they had to say. And I'm not going to go into that because if you listen to their episode on next Thursday, Ari Spears is possibly shouting me out personally on that episode. So I sent them an email. I'm not going to read exactly what I wrote. I pretty much just wrote to them what I'm talking about now and how I felt. And so this email was sent to me like almost 5 minutes after sending it out to him personally, and he wrote himself. He said, "Make sure you listen to next week's podcast on Thursday as we talk more about Rocky, but I'm going to shout you out and make an announcement especially for you." Now, that was by Ari Spears. I did not expect him to respond that quickly. I figured he was busy and he was just going to read through the emails selectively or something like that on his podcast. I just took my shot, and I was just like, I'm just going to send it to him and write to him how him and Andy's thoughts were, and how they just had like this general talk, and how it reignited my desire to go back into not quit my podcast and to just like chase this passion of mine, and I sent him an email, and that's what he responded back to me. So Aries, if you ever listen to my podcast, man, thank you so much for responding that quickly. It meant a lot to me this week. It's something that I will hold dearly to, just my passion really, and thank you so much, man. That helped me a lot this week. And and to you who are listening, I know this is starting off kind of like down in a bit, but if you ever have any self-doubt, man, just keep chasing that passion, man. And yesterday I ran into one of those Facebook memories, and I saw a memory that I shared, and it was Bernie Mac, man. Rest in peace, Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac mentioned to Oprah, I want to be the best version of me. I don't care what people think about me, and it's not about the money, because the money will come, but just I want to be the best me. And that too, man. These legends in comedy, man, like there's a reason why they were so good at what they did. I guess it's not about what you want exactly, but what you're going for. It's kind of like I'm mixing up a little bit here, but it's just like I can't really word it, because you can't let other shit like put you down on your passion, man. You gotta just keep fighting through it, and remember what you're fighting for, really, instead of what you're fighting. And yeah, man, that really inspired me. But today I do have a lot to talk about, and it's Comic-Con this weekend, which is crazy, right? I'm gonna touch up on that too. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what else I did this week too. I recently just bought the Shazam Steelbook at Best Buy, and I also pre-ordered Alita Battle Angel. So I'm gonna talk about that film like maybe in a future podcast episode. I was able to silver lining here. I was able to actually get a guest booked for next weekend, so I'm excited for that. I'll touch up on that later at the end of the episode, and just briefly explain about like who it is and what they do, as well. And it's been quite the week. So I've been trying to find ways to just also like improve the podcast too. I've been looking into better mics and possibly buying a laptop. And that to my cousin's been sending me links like, buy this laptop, buy this one, this one's good. So I'm looking into that, and hopefully I can like start using a laptop for my guests and stuff when I do interviews with my guests. That way I have like information on my hands, because again I record everything through my smartphone. But yeah, and also I forgot to mention this earlier too. What's crazy that what happened today, really, Saturday the 20th of July. What happened today was so crazy, because I went to work, right, and then I came home, and you'd think everything's fine, and I had a feeling something was off too, and someone had the audacity to steal one of our packages from my front porch. You know, you buy stuff online and they bring packages. You'd think that that shit would not happen to you because, I mean, you see it on the news and on the internet and you kind of just brush it off. But shit, bro, like someone stole a package from my front porch. And the mailman, I mean, shout out to my neighbor and the mail lady. They saw what happened to. My neighbor was and it was in his garage. He didn't notice it right away, but the mail lady was already like 5 or 6 houses down the street from where my house where my house is, and like really, what the fuck, bro? You know, I was so heated earlier. I was like Denzel in Training Day, man. I was like, you think you could do this to me? Like, you motherfuckers will be playing basketball in Pelican Bay when I get done with you. Shoe program, motherfucker. You know, like, I was getting so mad. I was so heated. I went out and bought a camera right away. You can hear it. If you can hear how angry I am, you can. I went to Best Buy and I bought a camera right away. And so I was like, you know, I'm setting this shit up now. You know, and I was like sending out the. I set up the app and I'm recharging the battery because the battery came in like 50%, so I wanted a full battery. And then next week I'm gonna go get another one just to extend the battery life on the camera. And yeah, man, I was just so mad. I was, and like thinking about it now, I still get a little bit heated. But I took a nap, so I was like, I need to calm down, man. I don't want to get stressed out on this podcast because this was literally giving me a headache. Because I was like, what the fuck, man? I was so pissed. And yeah, man, it's wild week. Oh man, I think it's the weather. The weather in Michigan is crazy. It was hot for the past 2 days in the 90s, and not just 90s, but it was humid. And then where I work at too, there's no real air circulation, like no windows or anything, because I'm in like a small little. I guess it's not really a warehouse per se, but it's like a little shop, or it's just no circulation. We have fans blowing the air, and really you're just sitting there and breathing in hot air that's circulating. Oh my god, it was so hot. I think it's the weather, and yeah, man. So let's get to the real stuff here, man. I wanted to talk about what really inspired me to do podcasting, and I don't believe I touched up on this topic yet, and. Podcasting, again, Andrew is the one who introduced me into podcasting. But to do this on my own, what inspired me was Rob Paulsen's Talking Tunes. If you're not familiar with Rob Paulsen, he was actually the voice actor for many character voices that you should have grown up with, such as the Animaniacs, Yakko. He sang that Geography song, I can't remember the lyrics, but the tempo and the beat of it went with like it's like na 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 like that. It was just it went with that beat, and then like he also voiced Carl on Jimmy Neutron and a lot of Nickelodeon voices on and stuff like that. He's an old timer, and he did the Pinky on Pinky and the Brain, so that should be more familiar. But he's such a class act as a voice actor, and it's amazing about what he can do with like just how happy he was with his job. His story is insane because he's from Michigan too, which I never knew. I never knew he was from Michigan. He's from Flint, and he pursued acting and singing like on Broadway and something like that, and he just risked it all and went to Hollywood on his own, drove all the way there and just took some jobs here and there, and by the time you knew it, he built up his resume, and now he's like and pretty much a top voice actor, and he's an old timer really. He's in, I believe he's in his late 50s 60s, but man, like he's made a career out of what he's doing, and he loves what he does. He's always mentioning in his podcast that he if he could do his job without getting paid, he would. And that's the kind of job that not just me, but I'm pretty sure any person would want to do, to where like when you go to work and you feel like you're not really working at all. And that, man, what a story for Rob Paulsen. And that podcast that he did with Nerdist, Talking Tunes, and just having guests on his show, like with other voice actors and stuff like that, and they used to do skits together, or like they used to reread certain scenes with their character voices. Like a big one was like him and Seth Green. They did the Obi-Wan and Anakin scene from Star Wars. Revenge of the Sith, and was it Revenge of the Sith? Um, I think it was a was it Revenge of the Sith? Uh, I'm gonna have to look that up. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, it was Revenge of the Sith. I don't know why I was doubting myself. I knew it was that, but like him and Seth Green, he did the voice of Pinky as Obi-Wan, and Seth Green did his Chris Griffin voice as Anakin. And Seth Green is so good at doing the Chris Griffin voice. Like, I mean, it is him, but like he doesn't sound like himself at all when he does Chris Griffin. And you see his face when you see his like his physical self talking like Chris Griffin. Man, it's so fucking hilarious. Definitely watch that bit there. That show really inspired me to continue and do a podcast on my own. Now I did want to give some mentions here as well with other podcasts that I listen to. Again, Aries, Spears, and Steinberg inspired me. And I was working in downtown Detroit. I used to always listen to his podcast driving there and back because my drive was a good. My drive there and back was probably a good 30 to 45 minutes, and so I would listen to his podcast there and back. And yeah, I mean, he had a lot. He talks about real shit, like not just things that happen in the black community, and that's racial, but like he still has that old school. I guess it's old school mentality where like it's between the 80s to early 2000s kind of mindset. I guess you could say he's not selling out to the whole PC culture and just like trying to adapt to all this new stuff. He's like, man, fuck that, man. I want to talk about whatever I want to talk about and be real. So hearing his perspective on things, and then Andy Steinberg, he talks about like he's always usually countering what Andy's always countering what Aries has to say, and they always have good debates and stuff like that. So I like listening to their show. And yeah, man, like they're very real on the show, and there was moments where I think there was one episode where Aries talked about like how he wishes that he could work harder and do things like how these new comics are, and he was talking about his struggle, and man, he's a very relatable person, put it that way. I can really relate to Aries, and listening to his podcast is very I look forward to listening to his show. So yeah, so check that out too, Spears and Steinberg. And now another podcast to hear. I guess you could call these people podcasters because now they all have their own podcast, but Timothy DeLaGhetto, OG YouTube star. Now, he's always been an inspiration to me since he's been on the YouTube scene, and when he blew up, not just doing his music, but vlogs and sketches. And man, like you see his whole career just on YouTube and on the internet. Man, he really worked his ass off to be where he's at. He went from just being the funny Asian, breaking the stereotype personality, where he's now being like he's doing a lot of like he did music as Traffic, and then he dropped the name Traffic. Now he went on to be on Wild and Out, which was a huge step for not just him but for like just the Asian community in general. Like holy shit, man, like you see this guy like break barriers as a YouTuber and through his hard work and stuff. Now he's doing like his podcast. He's doing a weekly show with Sen Foods with David So. And yeah, man, his work ethic is very inspirational, and I love his show too. I wish he did a show like every more often. I think he does it once a week, but I really like his show with Ricky Shucks, which is one of his friends, and then Nikki Blades. Oh my god, she's so fine, Nikki Blades. But yeah, I love their show. Like it's that Timothy DeLaGhetto atmosphere, man. Like it's funny. It's always cracking jokes. They get along great, and their guest is always good. So yeah, I like his show a lot, and just watching his career, how it is, man, and very inspirational and very motivating for me. And another person here is Dumbfounded. Those of you who don't know who Dumbfounded is, he's a Korean YouTube rapper. He started off like battle rapping, which got him really big. I've seen him live like twice now, which is, I wish I got to see him live more, but I saw him live twice, and I got to meet him twice. And yeah, man, like his podcast is really cool too, because he has a lot of these other Korean rappers. Jay Park was on there, and Jay Park's he's a big time rapper, and or at least in the Asian in the Korean culture, like he's huge. He's a huge star, really, Jay Park, and he's on several episodes of Dumbfounded, which is awesome. And then Dumbfounded has Rick and JL from Year of the Ox, a rap duo, and they have all these other like rappers on there. I can't really remember their names exactly, but the premise of Dumbfounded show is pretty similar to he just having these guests on his show and talking about music and hip hop and comedy and just pushing the Asian culture really and supporting one another, which I like, which is why I like it a lot too, because he made points where like how there was one thing that Dumbfounded said where like he never wanted to be called an Asian rapper, but man, at the end, it's what he is. The first thing you see is that he's Asian, so he wears that very proudly. That he is an Asian rapper, and they're gonna break barriers and break the stereotypes and continue to support one another as an Asian community. Hmong people. Me and Andrew spoke about this earlier or last week on the podcast too. So, which is why I wanted, which is one of the reasons why I'm reaching out to so many Hmong people to be on my show. That's inspired by Dumbfounded, and these a few more mentions here. Gary Owen, comedian as well, very popular in the black community because his wife's a black woman too. But Gary Owen, man, he's one of the people that on Facebook, like when a white celebrity messes up, people are always posting up memes like, "Oh, we want to trade this guy for Gary Owen." Gary Owen's in the black community. No, but Gary Owen's podcast is inspiring to me as well because he does. I guess it's his style of how he does it because he's doing it how he just talks to you, and it's he talks about his daily routine, his life, and everything what's happened. So this is where I kind of get like my inspiration for my podcast from him. Like it's from his show, kind of really, and where I'm just talking to my guests and stuff. So it's kind of like inspired from that. And then also Kevin Smith. I was never a huge fan of Kevin Smith growing up. Andrew finally got me to liking his material. And he also released the Jay and Silent Bob trailer yesterday as well. I never grew up with that movie with that and like what's the movie that they did? It was Jay and Silent Bob and what's the other one? Why am I drawing blanks here, man? Like it's Jay and Silent Bob, and let me just check that. The Clerks, that's what it is. Clerks film. I remember as a kid I watched Clerks 2, and I don't know, I couldn't get drawn into it. But with the new Jay and Silent Bob movie, it's a huge deal because it's something that's how Kevin Smith really got big, and Jason Mewes and Ben Affleck's in there. Bunch of cameos: Jason Briggs, Redman, Method Man, like a San Diego-esque Comic-Con. Tommy Chong at the end of the trailer. Holy shit, dude, that dude's still alive. It's probably from all that marijuana he's smoking, man. And lots of cameos. I believe, yeah, his Kevin Smith's daughter plays a character in there too, Harley Quinn. She's in that show, and I never really saw her. This was the first time I ever saw her how she looked like, and apparently she's doing something for DC Access as well. And something funny, Andrew mentioned that was the because she plays Jason Mewes' daughter in the movie, and Andrew was like, it's probably because like they mentioned that before, to where like she looks like Jason Mewes in real life, and that what if that was his kid really instead of Kevin Smith's child? I'm like, holy shit, that could be true. But yeah, Kevin Smith, his podcast is a big part for me as well. Mostly because Kevin Smith is so passionate about what he loves. Really, he never really talks about what he doesn't like. And he mentioned on his show where he was like, if I like something, I'm always going to talk about it. I'm never going to talk about something. I'm not quoting him exactly. This is paraphrasing, but he was saying like, whatever he likes, he's always going to talk about it, and he'll never talk about something he doesn't like. And Kevin Smith likes pretty much everything. He's very eccentric of how he talks about things, which is what inspired me to make a podcast to talk about what I like. Thanks to those guys for just inspiring me to do my podcast, and some honorable mentions here as well. I listen to a lot of podcasts really, and like other comedians such as Doughboy, Kevin Stages. Those two, they have the R&R podcast, The Righteous and Ratchet, Patrick Cloud, and To Hear More with their The Internet is Undefeated podcast. I think they're changing the name of their podcast name to something else. They haven't done anything recently. They're always doing like jokes on each other and talking about pop culture and the black community and just overall pop culture, and they're always talking about things that are like just that's relatable. Like Kev on Stage, really, he's very relatable as a person too, because he grew up with the struggle, as you can say, and like he worked really hard to get to where he's at, and he it's inspiring, man. All these people that I've mentioned, they're all inspiring to me, and makes me want to, which is why I want to continuously do my podcast, and I hope to be something like that to someone too with this podcast. So on to the next thing here, San Diego Comic-Con, which I mentioned. I'm trying to stay as up to date as I can with it on the Poplug podcast page. I've been sharing some stuff too. I don't think I shared as much as I wanted to this year. I don't think there's as many events going on. I know that there's multiple panels from like Art Germ and from DC and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy yet besides the Jay and Silent Bob trailer. I know today they released the Watchmen trailer, and yesterday they did the Rick and Morty. They showed like a little scene. Was it yesterday or this morning? They did Rick and Morty as well, and they released their Zombieland 2 was announced there. The Superman animated film for Superman Red Sun film was announced there as well. The Watchmen trailer, I just watched it like 10 minutes ago, so I'm still kind of processing it. Overall, I think it looks really interesting. Regina King, I think, is the lead in that show, and then that little girl from This Is Us, and she was also in Shazam as Darla, I think that's her name. Yeah, Darla. She's in that show for HBO. She's gonna be a breakout star, man, because ever since This Is Us, she has been pretty much everywhere, really. Pretty much Watchmen takes place after the events of the comic book, where Dr. Manhattan's already on Mars, and so now they're getting into conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So looks interesting, and especially on HBO, it should be good, really, with that kind of budget, and with Game of Thrones not really with Game of Thrones not there anymore. There's more shows to look into, like to watch, and I think Westworld just dropped their trailer too, which I haven't watched, and really I have not started watching Westworld yet. I've heard great things about Westworld from my cousins. I plan to try to make time to watch that, I guess, because I have so much shit I'm doing, which is why my mind is racing so fast, because I'm reading all these comics, I'm trying to watch these shows and anime, I'm trying to keep up with a lot of stuff, and it's hard, but I'm going to talk about what I do know. So that's what's happening so far with San Diego. There's still tomorrow as well, and I'm pretty sure that's when Marvel's panel for H Hall is gonna be happening during tomorrow, and I believe the rumors are they're talking about Doctor Strange 2, Black Panther 2, and other films for the next phase. I don't think they're gonna touch up on Fantastic Four or X-Men yet, but if they do, then great. And speaking of X-Men, Taron Egerton is confirmed to be the next Wolverine. I read the article wrong where I thought Hugh Jackman confirmed it or like allowed him to do it, but Hugh Jackman and him worked on another film together before, and Hugh Jackman, I'm pretty sure he approves of this because those two get along so well. And Taron Egerton's a great actor, man. Great young actor. He was Eggsy in The Kingsman, and he's also Elton John in Rocket Man, and he also played Robin Hood as well. Great actor, great singer, really, too. I think he'll do great, because my choices for Wolverine was either going to be... My first choice really was Tom Hardy, but then my second choice was Taron Egerton. Yeah, I think he'll do good. Great actor. He's British. All these British actors are killing it in these movies in America, which is weird, right? I've been reading a lot of things recently, getting back into reading my comic books and manga, really. I started picking up... I picked up My Hero Academia Vigilantes. It's just a spin-off show, or show. It's a spin-off series of My Hero Academia taking place like before Midoriya became, Class 1A, where he started training and everything. And during the time where All Might is still the hero. It's about Koichi. I can't pronounce his last name, but he's pretty much this a college kid where he has a quirk where he can slide. If you don't know what My Hero Academia is, quirks are the abilities that they have because they're in a world where superheroes exist, and it's kind of like X-Men really, where they have mutated powers. So Koichi becomes like he's a All Might enthusiast as well, like Midoriya. And in the author's notes, the author mentioned that this would be what Midoriya could be if he wasn't in school, or if he wasn't, trying to if he didn't meet All Might and was just some regular kid. It's very inspired by Midoriya as well. I mean, there's moments in the first. I only read the first volume, so there's moments in the first chapter where like you see the similarities of him and Midoriya, of why they want to be heroes. So he has this like ability because he couldn't pass the hero test. He has this ability to just slide if he's on all fours, or like he has like at least, or if he has like his feet and one hand on the floor. He mentions that he can slide as fast as a bike, but he can slide actually faster. But then he's always like hurting himself, and eventually he gets gear, like a biker's gear to protect himself, like elbow pads, knee pads, and stuff like that. And it's about, he's just some regular kid who ran into some thugs, and then another vigilante named Knuckle Duster, who has no quirk. He's a vigilante as well, and he's taken Koichi under his wing, and so Koichi's name in the manga is called the Crawler because of his sliding ability. And then they also have another teammate. Her name is Pop Step. Her ability is she can jump really high, and she's more like she's like an internet star really, and she's known for her revealing clothing as well. So it's just the story about these three, and it centers around them. And what's cool is like you see other characters from the My Hero Academia show. In the second volume, they show Ignium, Ida's older brother, with the engine quirk, where they have like engines on their legs, and they can run really fast. And he has like an armor, like a knight. And they've even showed like Aizawa or Eraserhead as well in the manga, which I kind of geeked out reading it because I'm like, I love things like that, subtle like details from the main storyline and these spin-offs. Because like there was a panel in one of the chapters where Koichi's talking to these two fans of his and saying like, we're heroes, but we're not licensed heroes. And like and like there's like a panel of Midoriya walking in an alley looking up, and you don't see his face, but it's Midoriya because of the hair, and he's looking up to the sky, and you see All Might like flying in the background. So that's pretty cool. It's in that storyline where you still feel like it's in that world, which is great because it doesn't, like most spin-offs usually don't give off that feeling, like it's in the same story, but then like it doesn't have that same energy as the main story versus the spin-off. But with the spin-off here, it's carrying that same energy from the main story, which is great. Yeah, I had to take a drink of water. I was like, my mouth was getting dry. But so it's great. It's a great read. I have volumes 1, 2, 3, and 5. My dumbass didn't get number 4. I ordered it on eBay, so hopefully that doesn't get stolen. Holy shit, bro! I'll be so mad if they took that. But yeah. Right now I'm just on the beginning of volume 2, so if you have not read that yet, go ahead and read it. You can probably find it online somewhere, but it's better to just have the actual book in your hand. I also finally finished Batman Damned, the first series of DC's Black Label, and I'm just gonna give this overall like review of the actual series because it's only 3 issues. Now, if you don't know what Batman Damned is, it's the first DC Black Label book, which is for like their new brand for mature books, for mature readers. The first issue got a lot of controversy because they showed a shadow of Bruce Wayne's penis, and the reprints don't have it. But then if you have the first prints, it's worth quite some money because I actually have it, and I'm not giving that up. Someone asked me for it. I'm like, no, I'm not giving that shit to you. No, it's my book. I bought it. And I was like, if you're gonna buy that from me, you can pay up. But then I only have one copy, so no, I'm keeping that. That is mine. That is my book. Not because of Bruce Wayne's dick, but the story itself. I want the series to keep for myself. I don't plan on flipping. I mean, there was that intention to where I wanted to flip certain comic books, try to flip them for money. But when I really look at it now, it's just, I like these comic books. I mean, I'll probably sell some, do some giveaways, but the series that I really like, I'm keeping that. That's mine. I want to keep those stories. Overall, yeah, this story's about Bruce Wayne. Just he's trying to solve this mystery of how is the Joker really dead, and he doesn't remember anything. So he goes through Gotham with Constantine and trying to solve this story, and they also go through flashbacks of him as a child where he sees Enchantress as well. So it's like very on the dark side of DC, like the magic realm of DC and Gotham and Batman's lore, really. And they also show you Zatanna as well, and they show you Swamp Thing, and also what's his name, Etrigan. They show him in there, but his part in the story was so bad. He was a battle rapper. Like, really, Etrigan? I know he talking rhymes, but terrible. But overall, I enjoyed the story, and you can't deny that the artwork is. You can't deny that the artwork is really good as well, and the story itself, it's really about Bruce Wayne's like mentality, really, and his psyche, man. Because in the story, they show you that Bruce Wayne was like haunted by Enchantress, and she kind of motivated him to be what he was, to become the Batman. And I remember watching this video where they analyzed Bruce Wayne's psyche, and if you really are into Batman, it's a sad story because the death of his parents play a huge role in who he is, and there's some that agree that Bruce Wayne never survived. He died that night with his parents, and what's left of him is Batman, and that's all he is. And he wants to stop this fear of just being afraid in Gotham, which is why he became the fear of Gotham. And he can't live because that's what he wants to be, and really he's just scared all the time. He wears this mask, and it's very it's a very sad point of view for Batman, really. And like, you can see why this is why he's never going to be happy. This is why he's never going to get the things that he wants that'll bring him joy. He's always going to be this dark, sad, lonely little kid that saw his parents get shot down. And with Batman Damned, they established that really well with the Joker as well, and him killing, and not him killing the Joker, but at the end of issue 3, they show you a side of Batman they don't ever really show, because in the beginning Batman gets stabbed and he's like injured and he's like very weak, but in the bridge he sees the Joker hanging from the bridge, and he reaches out to help the Joker because Batman's rule is he doesn't kill. But when he reaches out his hand, he sees the Joker, and to end this cycle of killing and everything, and everything that's evil in Gotham, he closed his hands in front of the Joker and let the Joker fall, hoping to stop all of that. But then, if there's no Joker, then there's no Batman, and then it's the other way around as well. If there's no Batman, there's no Joker. So it's an endless cycle of who's who and what is what in Gotham City. And I believe that the day that Batman becomes when he's no longer Batman, then that's where his story ends. And I don't think readers are ready for that, because I would like the mantle to be passed on to someone else, where someone else takes over for Bruce Wayne. 80 years of Batman, really. And it's the story itself, man. I that's why I love Tom King's perspective of Batman as well. I mean, I don't like everything he's done, but he's shown the human side of Batman as well in the story arc for the main continuity for DC Rebirth of Batman, where they show you the side of Bruce Wayne, who he is as a person versus wearing the mask. And I feel like with Batman Damned, they showed that very well with who Bruce Wayne is. Yeah, man, it's a very good story overall. It was pretty tricky at first because it was released like inconsistently. There was delays and stuff like that because of the whole controversy with the Batman penis. But yeah, it's great. It's a great story. I give this overall. I give it like a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it. And then now there's Batman Last Night on Earth with Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder. That's coming out too. So I'm excited for issue number 2 of that story. To continue on here as well, The Walking Dead 192, 193, the last 2 issues of the comic book series. Man, I never really, I didn't read Walking Dead like page for page, like all the way through the entire story. I read issues here and there. I read the issue where Glenn died, and where the governor. I read it here and there, but these last 2 issues I had to get. And 192, Rick gets killed, and the writer Rob Kirkman's always already mentioned that Rick was gonna die and that it was gonna be passed on to Carl. But I was not expecting him to die the way he did, because I this is just me assuming. I didn't read anything before 192, so from what I'm reading in issue 192 is that Rick's taken over, I believe, the town Commonwealth, and he's pretty much changed things around and he's in charge. And by this time, Rick's been a huge inspiration to everyone else as well. And the lady that was in charge, she gave up. She gave up her position, and her son Sebastian was upset, and he went into Rick's room and shot Rick and shot him multiple times. And then Carl walked in. And the way how Carl saw his dad, man, it's just like he woke up the next day, saw Jesus, not Jesus Christ, but the character Jesus, and he saw his friends and everything. So yeah, let's get breakfast, man. I'll go get my dad. And he walked up into his dad's room, saw the door that was open, opened it. Rick was a zombie, and out of instinct, bam, shot him right in the head. And I was thinking, man, like if I saw my dad like that, I don't know what I'd feel. And it was emotional reading that panel, man. Like Carl just walked in and just saw his dad as a zombie in that room, and man, it was sad. And like he was crying on the floor, and each panel that passed by, people were coming behind him, security's coming behind him, like, oh my god, what happened? Oh, someone shot Rick. And Carl took him out. Like you see him, and then like Carl at the end chooses to not kill Sebastian for killing his dad, and he does it because his dad wouldn't have done it. And so in issue 193, they it's time skip where Carl has grown up, and he it's to where the world is kind of back to normal. Really, they're trying to grow back into how it used to be, and I don't think there's any more zombies, but from where they live at, there hasn't been zombies for years. And Herschel, which is Glenn and Maggie's son, who's named after their father, Herschel, he owns like the last few zombies, and Carl kills them, and there's like this huge like issue with that. And Maggie, who's Madam President, is upset, and Carl kills him because it's for the sake of his daughter, who's named Andrea, and he named her after Andrea because Andrea and Rick were a thing in the comic books, which I'm glad they did that in the comic books, because in the actual show that would have never worked out. But yeah, man, like just seeing that, and Rob Kirkman confirmed that the ending was what he wanted to be, where it's Carl reading his daughter a story about Rick. And I love the notes that Rob Kirkman left behind, because it's like, you don't want it to end, but at the same time, it has to end. He wanted it to be a surprise, like how each death was in The Walking Dead, with the inspiration of Game of Thrones, like that unexpectedness of it, And so, yeah, 193, didn't even tell anyone until like the week of, and bam, that was it. People were upset, but Rob Kirkman's like, hey man, I gotta end it. I think that's how all series should end, really. Attack on Titan's ending, like, hopefully Attack on Titan ends that well too, but like Game of Thrones didn't end that well. That's why they fucked up. They should have ended it actually either a season earlier or extended the episodes, but Game of Thrones fucked up their ending. Yeah, but man, the issues for Walking Dead, I applaud it, man. It was good. It's a good story. I enjoyed it a lot reading these last two issues of The Walking Dead, and it was great. I liked it a lot, and I was telling my coworker that this is how what happens, and she's like, "Well, that's not gonna happen in the show, right?" I'm like, "Well, the show is completely different now," and also Rob Kirkman confirms Negan lives, so Negan doesn't die at all in this series. They don't show him in the last issue, but he lives. Um, so I've also read this new series called No One Left to Fight by Audrey Audrey Sitterson. It's inspired by Dragon Ball Z. I believe the character's name is Valet or Vale. He's like a character with PTSD after fighting this huge fight with like I guess you could say like the last boss. He goes and it's only the first issue, but he goes and checks out the meteor site of where their fight happened, and he's the known hero. But then like you see he has flashbacks of the fight. The artwork's really good. It's very Dragon Ball Z esque. The other character, believe the name here, Timur. He's like the Vegeta character. He has blue hair, so he's opposite of this guy who has red hair. Timur, who has a family, and he couldn't fight the last boss, but he wants to prove himself against him. So like at the end of the issue, they fight, and he does like an attack on Valet, and like he has a PTSD moment, and they end it there. It's pretty cool. But then hopefully the next issue and the future issues of this series, hopefully they turn out well. I thought it was an okay read so far for a first issue of this series. I wanted to read it because the fact that it was Dragon Ball Z inspired. I've also been catching up with my anime again with Demon Slayer. Great series, man. Like the fight between him and Inosuke, and also just the last, I believe the last episode is when they were in the last episode I watched, they were in the forest fighting the spider demons. And so it's cool to just watch the series itself. Hopefully it's a full 24 episode season, which I believe it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say for it besides that I'm still watching it. I don't want to go into detail what happened in the last episode, and I haven't watched the new episode yet either. So just watch Demon Slayer. Great series. Animation's great, and now all the characters are together now. Inosuke, Zenitsu, Tanjiro, Nezuko. They're all together now. Like now they're working together to fight in the later on in the series. I also started watching Dr. Stone. I believe the series premiered like 2 weeks ago. I put a lot of hype on it, and then like I watched that first episode, and I just I couldn't get into it. Science and all that, and the fact that they're high school kids, and the main character is always that flamboyant looking character where his hair style is like, oh, that's the main character because of his hair. Like it was like that. I couldn't get into it. Everyone got turned to stone, and Dr. Stone is trying to unstone these people. So it's I couldn't get drawn into it. But so Fire Force came out, I believe, 2 weeks ago as well. And Fire Force, it's pretty close to like My Hero Academia, and it's like a firefighter kind of series. At least that's what I thought it was. It was like really an anime about firefighters, but the twist is that they fight fire demons, which is really cool. And the main character, like always, wants to be a hero. Now, I thought that this series so far has been very well. The fight scenes are cool, and apparently, like what happened is it's where people just combust out of nowhere. So these the Tokyo Fire Force has to go and put out these combust people who turn into flames. And the main character, he saw his house burn down as a child, but they thought it was him because he's a third generation pyrokinetic, which means like throughout as the years went on, people evolved to having the fire powers, and second generation pyrokinetics can control fire, but third generations can create fire themselves. So he can like combust with his feet and stuff, and I believe he can combust with his feet and his hands like a firebender. And in the story, they think it's him that burned down his family's house, but he claims he saw something else in there. And so his little baby brother and his mom died in the house fire, and so he enlisted in being a fire force fire force employee, where he's training and learning to be a fire force member. And like there's a priestess that prays every time they kill one of the combusts. They have multiple like other team members that have different skill sets and stuff like that. I believe this week's issue was not issue, but this week's episode was put on halt or delayed because of a incident in Japan where an animation studio got caught on fire, and I believe it was through arson. And also just yeah, I mean, just going over these the stuff here with what I've been reading as well with Attack on Titan 119. Oh my god, Attack on Titan 119. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me take a drink of water here. Attack on Titan 119. Holy shit! If you're not reading the manga for Attack on Titan, you should, because I've mentioned this already. You have to read it. It's so good. I can't explain. I can't say it enough. It's so good. What happened is like everyone's fighting, or because the ending is near for Attack on Titan. I believe the manga is going to end soon. So what happened is that they're still fighting the Marleyan army, and Eren was on his way to touch Zeke's hand, because if he touches his brother's hand, who's of royal blood, Eren can activate his Founding Titan ability, which is like the main Titan power, where he can control the Titans. But because Eren doesn't have royal blood, he has to touch someone of royal blood, and so he's fighting his way there. And Zeke has turned everyone into Titans with his scream, because in the previous issues there, the people drank the wine that was infected by Zeke's spinal fluid. So they have that in their body, and so when he does Titan Scream, everyone transformed. And so one of the children who were from the Marleyan army drank the wine, slipped into his mouth by accident. I believe he took a sip of it. I forgot exactly how it happened, but he ingested it, and he turned into a Titan. And so he was gonna go, and he became a mindless Titan, and Zeke commanded him to kill his older brother. And so when he was doing it, the Jaw Titan, who was defeated by Eren, came out and sacrificed himself to protect Reiner, who is the Armor Titan, and to protect Gabby as well. And so he consumed the Jaw Titan. So he's the Jaw Titan character. I believe his name is not Marco, but it's either Marco or Falco. One of the names there. No, I believe it's Falco, because Marco's his older brother. But he was eaten, and so the power has been passed on to him, but they didn't show anything. But at the end of the manga, where Eren's running to his brother, and Gabby she picks up a rifle and has Eren in his sights, and she shoots the gun. At the last panel, Eren's head gets shot off. Shoots him clean in the neck. His head pops off. End scene. That's the last page of the manga of that issue until next month. And holy shit, did I scream when I read that panel. And man, like, just this overall arc in Attack on Titan, you'd think it couldn't get better, and it's getting more and more revealing, more twisty, and like it's just more desperate now. Like, you can see how desperate both sides are, just trying to win this war. And really, man, like this war just started because it's the events of a previous war, and I've spoke about this before too in another podcast, where it's just these people are the result of a previous war that had nothing to do with them. They're just fighting a war to fight and to prove who's in the right, and there's really no right side. And these Titan abilities is just like this in the center of it, and it's insane. So now I don't know what's gonna happen because I feel like Aaron might have shifted his Titan ability to like his entire body, like how Reiner did when they blew up his neck. He shifted like his that the life source that turns into a Titan like throughout his body instead of his neck, the like the part that connects your brain into your spine, like the nape of the neck. Like he transferred that all over his body versus just having it in his neck. So I think Aaron might have done that. But if not, then that's how he goes. And there's still Annie that's in the story too. Annie's still crystallized. So they haven't used her yet. And Armin is still the Colossal Titan too. And so I don't know what's gonna happen. I can't, as much as I'd like to predict things. I can't predict this series anymore. I don't know what's gonna happen. I also read the latest My Hero Academia 235 and 236. Shigaraki's origin is probably one of the saddest origins as a villain ever. He wants to let me check what that noise is. It is officially raining outside, so you'll probably hear raindrops. But anyway, Shigaraki or Tamura, you finally learn his origin, who's the leader of the League of Villains. He in the previous manga issues, you learn that the hands that are on his face and on his body are the hands of his family members because of his quirk, the decay quirk, and you learn that he's the one that killed them. But in the origin of his story in these last two issues here, they show you exactly what happened. And yeah, I mean, in the manga and the anime, they reveal, All For One reveals that he's the grandson of All Might's teacher who had the One For All ability. And so Shigaraki as a child wanted to be a hero, and his dad would beat the shit out of him, like would try to beat that out of him, and he'd slap him, call him names, and make fun of him, and just be very abusive to him. And like, it's like, you don't want to be a hero. Heroes are not good. But you learn that because his mom, who is One For All, or the teacher of All Might with the One For All quirk, she chose being a hero over being a mother, and that carried on to him, and he took out that anger on his son. Yeah, but like you learn that he didn't develop his quirk until later, and like at the end of issue 235, it activated because he was crying, and you know he's a sick child. He has allergies. He's always itchy, and he never gets, I guess, well. And in 235, issue 235, he got snitched on by his sister, who showed him a picture of his grandma, and showed him that she was a hero. And so after he got beat by his dad again, he was crying and holding onto his dog. The quirk activates and he decays his dog, and I thought that was so sad. And he's crying and crying, and then it continues on to issue 36, where he's crying to his sister, like, I didn't mean to do this, I didn't know what to do. His sister starts screaming, freaking. He grabs his sister, like, no, help me. And he grabs her, and she decays, and she breaks down, and he starts going crazy and screaming. And his family comes out, and they try to figure out what's going on. His mom comes and tries to console him. And then he grabs his mom. She decays, and he just releases all this power. He just released all this power, and kills his grandparents and like destroys the floor. And you learn that like deep down inside, he always had like this feeling, because when he was crying to his dog, he was like, I hate the world, I hate the people, I hate everyone. He was like, why am I going through this? And then when he goes and like he goes towards his dad hits him with a stick, and he's like, you better back off, and and so he snaps and he just kills his dad because he wants to, not by accident. He purposely killed his dad, and he had this intent, and you see the face that he has of like a killing intent. And then you read in the panel where he's like, that's where my itch stopped. He wanted to kill, and he had the urge to kill. And his story, although it's sad, he snapped, and like he killed his family. And yeah, it's what an insane origin for a villain. It's you feel sympathy for him because it's similar to Midoriya, where he was quirkless and then now he has quirks. But at the same time, Midoriya became good, but then Shigaraki became evil. And it's just different choices, I believe. And what a story, man. And this arc itself has been so great, because this recent arc for My Hero Academia, it's been concentrated on the villain's story, and you learn about more of the origins of different characters and stuff. Besides, I think Dobby is the only character who they haven't touched up on as to origin. For those of you who don't know who Dobby is, he's the flame wielding villain who has blue flames, and who's it's rumored that he is Todoroki's half brother as well. Yeah, so what a issue for My Hero Academia, and yeah, it was what a read, man. That by far some of the best stuff I've read for My Hero Academia since just talking about it. I got chills. It's insane. I can't wait for next week's issue. That's what I've been. That's what I've been doing so far lately, and yeah, I can't talk. I can't say anything else, but it's been great to been reading. I do want to read. I have this book here. It's Batman: Child of Dreams. Let's see, manga version of a Batman story. So that's probably something next I want to talk about as well, with some other stuff that I have here on the side that I want to read. And I definitely want to talk more about My Hero Academia Vigilantes as I get into it as well. And just a few last things here before I sign off. I did want to talk about I recently watched this documentary on Netflix, which is Bob Lazar. The Bob Lazar documentary about aliens and shit, because the Area 51 memes are getting pretty big, and it's the reason why it's getting big. I'm at fault too. I've shared these memes. I'm not too much of a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not closed mind about it. I'm pretty open with the thoughts of it. There's certain thoughts or certain topics that I think is complete stupidity, like flat Earth. If you're a flat earther, please email poplicpodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to be a guest, let me know, because I would love to have a flat earther on here to educate me on what flat earth theory is. And yeah, it's interesting because I don't think aliens are from outer space. I think that they're created by the government, based on what Bob Lazar was talking about in the documentary here. Do I think that they're gonna take over the world? Probably. I know. I feel like they are desensitizing the American people with this, because before, man, if you remember way back in the day, aliens are like, aliens? Are you fucking crazy? That's not real. Now CNN and the Air Force are claiming they see these alien sightings for some reason. It's all a government setup. They're desensitizing us. I sound like Alex Jones. All the American people are being desensitized, and the lizard people are going to attack us. Oh, da 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 da. Alex Jones makes some valid points, but he sounds crazy at the same time. No, but I feel like the government, or whoever's behind this, the conspiracy, or the power, I guess you could say, they're desensitizing us to the fact that aliens exist, and when we get quote unquote invaded, like Independence Day, we're gonna make memes out of it and record it and make fun of it, and there's nothing we can do about it, and maybe it's a potential way to create a new world order. Watch my ass get a text from the FBI. I'm like, stop talking. Yeah, that's what I think. I sound crazy talking about it, but that's what I think. It's probably a way to make us feel like it's not real. Because, I mean, look, Avengers, Thanos invades us from outer space. These things lead up to it, man. Like, just aliens in outer space and life outside of Earth. Do I believe there's life outside of Earth? Yeah, I do believe that. I think that there is life, but I don't think they're like aliens. If there's any... the space is so vast and the expansive space is so huge. It's, how do you not think that there's not life in outer space? That's galaxies and light years away from us. The gray aliens, no. I feel like the stuff that's in Area 51's been fabricated and created in the States to make us believe that they're outer space. If anything, if there's any life force that came to, like, the thing is, like, why would these people that live beyond us come to us with lights and everything? If these life forces or these other life that lives outside of space, they came to Earth and just came to see what we were, they probably would have attacked us already. But I don't know, man. It's such a touchy subject for controversies and conspiracies and stuff like that. But my thoughts, I think like Area 51 is creating aliens and weapons that we don't know about, like the Halo weapons and the Iron Man armor. Um, who knows? Maybe we have Kryptonians and Super Saiyans over there too. But man, that shit is getting so wild. Like the fucking the Facebook event September 20th, we're gonna go raid Area 51. Like, come on, people are fucking crazy. Naruto running. This shit is so fucking wild, man. I'm gonna Naruto run into Area 51 without getting shot. Oh man, it's gonna be great. Not great, but like it's funny. But yeah, that's a few thoughts on that topic. And if you haven't watched that Netflix documentary, definitely watch it, because Bob Lazar makes some solid points. Man, he's been saying the same story for 30 plus years, never changing the major details. And you never know, man. I believe he saw what he saw, and that's why he's at where he's at. Where government tried to take him out and erase him from files and stuff like that too. To where they try to make it seem like he didn't exist, but he survived it, man. And I think that's why he was on the Joe Rogan podcast recently, a month or two ago, and he was just on edge. He didn't want to talk about it, but he talked about it for the sake of talking about it. And I think what happened to Bob Lazar was very traumatic to him. And as much as he knows that he believes that he saw, I think he still feels like they won't believe him because they think he's crazy. But I think there's a good majority of the people who believe what he said, and I'm one of them. I believe he saw what he saw, and I believe that Area 51 has something fishy up their sleeves. But I don't think it's aliens from outer space. But I think they're going to make it seem that way, to where the world is going to unite as one to create a new world order. And that's when shit's going to go down. So be prepared, people. I said it first on Spoiler Force Podcast. A new world order is coming with Area 51. So this is all I have to talk about today. Thank you for listening. I know I rambled quite a bit today in today's episode. And I do want to say one more thing here as well. I know I'm signing off, and I'm like throwing all these extra little things here. Just continue to follow my podcast as well, and I want to shout out to Indochina Gardens as well. Again, I'm still in talks with them of being my sponsors. Indochina Gardens is located in Boyne City, Michigan, which is in the northern part of the Lower Peninsula, near Traverse City, Gaylord, around that area. Indochina Gardens has one of the best fried rice and sesame chicken. It is the Krabby Patty of Chinese food. The quality is much better than your average Chinese restaurant. It's very great. It's the Krabby Patty of foods. I know my uncle, right? It's family. I have to support it, but I'm not lying to you. The food is amazing. It's great. Awesome atmosphere. Great food. Great prices. Wonderful people up there. Try out Indochina Gardens. One of my favorite places to go of all time. Every time I'm up there, I always go there. So definitely check out that restaurant. And also, thank you to everyone who's been listening to Popluck, or not Popluck. See, I'm going back to Popluck again because of my interview with Andrew. Thank you to everyone who has been listening to Spoiler Force Podcast. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. Whether it's one or two of you, continue to share my podcast and subscribe as well. And I know that it's not much, but thank you again. It means a lot to me. So this is it, and thank you to everyone who's listened again, and thank you and I want to thank all of the people who's inspired me as well to do my podcast. I do want to mention that Joe Rogan as well has been an inspiration for me. Before I sign off, I did want to mention him as well. I don't think I mentioned him earlier. I love his interview style, which is why I want to have guests on my show. But another good inspiration. But again, thank you so much to Aries Spears, Andy Steinberg. Thank you to you guys for reigniting this flame of mine to just chase my passion like Rocky Balboa, and to not quit, to fight all 12 rounds against Apollo Creed, which is the life that I'm living right now, and to just become champ, man. Even if I win or lose. Thank you so much to you guys, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say to me next Thursday. Again, if you want to follow that as well, Spears and Steinberg on Apple Podcasts. next Thursday they're gonna continue on with the Rocky review, but Ari Spears, through his email, has said that he's going to shout me out. So if you want to hear that, listen to that as well. And to thank you to all the people who are interested in being guests as well on my show, and thank you to for people who agreed to being a guest. Also, I did mention this. My guest next weekend is a classmate of mine. Not exactly classmate, but we went to high school together, and I believe he's a DJ now. I've known him for quite some time. I haven't seen him for, I believe, a year or two. Great personality, great person. Very intellectual. He's an intellectual person. So, yeah, it's gonna be a good episode, man. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about what he's been doing and what his music stuff, and just talking about overall topics that come along when we go through the next podcast next weekend. So look forward to that. Thank you for listening. This is Spoiler First Podcast. Read your comic books. Watch your anime. Thank you so much for everyone. Have a good weekend. And Pacquiao, you better win, because if you don't, I'm going to be upset. Do it for the Asian people. Have a good night. If you enjoyed this episode, follow my Instagram at RickyVang92, RICKYVANG92, and follow Popluck Podcast on Facebook.com/PopluckPodcast.